With over 20 years in the entertainment business and hundreds of millions of records sold, Eminem is an undeniable industry powerhouse. And his bank balance agrees. Despite edging toward a net worth of $250 million, Marshall Mathers doesn't splurge like your average A-lister. He hasn't pampered himself with private islands or forked out for exclusive Manhattan penthouses. Slim prefers to keep it simple and stay true to his hometown Detroit, where he lives a little more under the radar. How did the rapper make all his money? How does he spend it? And what's life like inside the Eminem household? Let's find out. The majority of famous faces, be them movie stars, pop stars, or entertainment personalities, typically make the move over to Los Angeles and buy themselves a snazzy mansion up in the Hollywood Hills. Well, Eminem isn't like most celebrities, and if you're familiar with his ever-divisive music and intriguing topsy-turvy backstory, then you'll know exactly what we mean. Though he was born in St. Joseph, Missouri in 1972, Eminem spent most of his childhood growing up in Michigan, in, yup, we all know it, Detroit. This is where he got his big break in the rap world. This is where the inspiration comes from for countless record-breaking songs, and this is where M's chosen to buy his properties and put down roots, even through adulthood and fame. The multiple award-winning artist has owned 2 sizable pads in the Motor City over the last couple of decades. What do you say? Shall we take an exclusive look? It's not every day you get to experience the inner sanctum of a celebrity. Eminem's most extravagant property sits over in the upper-class suburb of Rochester Hills. Rochester Hills is considered one of the safest cities in the state, a stark contrast from his youth where he and his mother hopped around areas often riddled with violence. The compound is heavily secure and therefore perfect for someone with such a high level of notoriety. Sprawling 17,500 square feet, Eminem's home on Winkler offers up a list of features extravagant enough to make anyone jealous. The home includes 6 bedrooms and 9.5 bathrooms, and each bedroom is a suite fit for a king. Don't believe us? Just take a look for yourself. Even the multi-$1,000 entranceway with its wooden design is spectacular. As we move from inside to the outside, the experience gets even better. This stunning swimming pool, worth tens of thousands of dollars alone, is equipped with a twisting slide and a flowing waterfall. Plus, there's a spa, tennis and basketball court, cabana, and a private pond. Notably, the home has a dedicated spot for security, listing a so-called guardhouse as an extra selling point. On top of that, there's a nearly 4,000 square foot garage perfect for storing all of his lavish supercars, but we'll get to those a little later. The huge property is also known as the Kmart Mansion, not because it's furnished with Kmart goodies, but because its former owner was Charles Conaway, the company's former chairman. Oh, and did we forget to mention that there's an entire guest house on the property with its own game room as well? Sitting on land that spans 5.69 manicured acres or almost 250,000 square feet, there was plenty more room to play with if Eminem wanted to add a few extra finishing touches. Unfortunately, he no longer has that chance. He signed on the dotted line back in 2003 for $4.8 million, around $5.6 million by today's standards, and held onto it for the better part of 15 years. But in August of 2017, he listed the house for sale, with a price of just under $2 million. Why he slashed the asking price by such a significant margin is still uncertain. Around the same time that M went out and purchased the Rochester Hills pad, he acquired another Detroit mansion. The home at 19766 Westchester Drive was built in 1996 and boasts over 8,900 square feet of space, and it became Marshall's for a hefty fee of $1,483,500. Visitors approach the mostly brick mansion via a large driveway and are met with a subtle yet eye-catching few $1,000 fountain upon arrival. At the time of its purchase, he was still married to his now ex-wife, Kimberly Scott. Sure, $1.5 million is expensive for the area, but these kinds of properties in places like LA or New York could easily be worth 10 times as much. Even though the rapper owned the nearby Rochester Hills home, which was larger, he tended to spend the majority of his time here. As of February of 2019, Zillow estimated the value of Eminem's Clinton Township home at just under $1.8 million. It's certainly a step up from the comparatively cramped spaces in which he spent his earlier years. If you're a fan of Eminem, then you've surely seen the 8 Mile movie. Did you know that it's named after 8 Mile Road, near which the budding young lyricist grew up? South of 8 Mile Road, at 19946 Dresden Street in the suburb of Greenbrier, you'll find Slim Shady's childhood home. Compared to the colossal mansions that we've already seen, this small, wooden, 767 square foot single-family home isn't much to gloat about. Public records show that Eminem's mother purchased the house for $19,900 in 1987, and it wasn't worth more than $30,000 or $40,000 by the mid-2010s. While Eminem doesn't own it, and hasn't lived within its walls for years, it remains a significant piece of his his history and is also considered a significant piece of Eminem memorabilia. The divisive rapper has clearly managed to turn it around since his time on Dresden Street. These days, his trophy room alone, jam-packed with Grammys, MTV Awards, and even an Oscar, would rival his entire childhood home in terms of size. It wasn't just hard for Eminem in the early days, it was hard for his family too, especially his daughter Haley, who grew up witnessing her parents' tumultuous relationship. Fast forward to today, and Haley is thriving. She's no longer living under someone else's roof and has acquired her very own 4-bedroom house in Detroit, which she shares with her adorable Shiba Inu pup named Lottie. When Haley was asked if she sees her father often and if he's supportive, she said, quote, "Of course, we are very close. Whether or not he's the one who paid for her house, though, remains unclear." Hold up, let's rewind for a second. How did this lonely kid that was bullied in school transition into a world-famous artist free to buy any mansion he pleases? His first album, called Infinite, only sold 1,000 copies, but he kept making music, eventually gaining attention after finishing in second place at the 1997 Rap Olympics in Los Angeles. From there, he caught the eye of Dr. Dre, and the rest is history. Fast forward to today, and Eminem has established himself as one of the most commercially successful rappers of all time, with over 100 million albums sold worldwide. That equates to pockets that are over $210 million deep. A lot of this money goes back into his business, Shady Records, which rents its headquarters out in New York, while other portions of his wealth go to all kinds of lavish purchases. M grew up reading comics, and before he found his passion for music, he dreamed of being a comic book artist himself. While that career path didn't exactly work out, the love for the art never faded. Wherever he goes, Eminem expects his staff to ensure that there are always plenty of comic books on hand to keep him busy during his travels. It's believed that he has spent around $16,000 on retro arcade games like Donkey Kong and Space Invaders, and far more on traditional limited edition comic books. According to one of the guys Eminem works with at Shady Records, the rapper's most valuable comic is Amazing Fantasy number 15, in which Peter Parker and Spider-Man make their first appearance. In good condition, these are worth from $500,000 to upwards of $1 million. To call Slim Shady a fashionista, well, that'd be just flat out wrong. While he has sported the tux on the odd occasion, for the most part, this rapper is seen in baggy sweats, oversized hoodies, and comfy kicks. But there is one accessory that M's not afraid to throw a little bit of money at: his wristwear. Preferring to keep his watches clean and classic, he's been snapped wearing various Rolexes and an odd assortment of G-Shocks throughout his career. His first Rolex was no spur-of-the-moment purchase. It was a self-reward for all his hard work. And before he splurged thousands of dollars, he had the responsible foresight to call up his manager to make sure that he could actually afford it. Since then, his collection has grown tenfold, with a yellow gold Audemars Piguet Royal Oak piece worth over $40,000 becoming a recent accessory of choice. In several publicity photo shoots, he has sported a Rolex Datejust, which can fetch tens of thousands of dollars, as well as the luxurious Rolex President Day Date, which is also around the $30,000 to $40,000 mark. With so much money to burn, it makes sense that rumors have flooded in over the years suggesting that the legendary rapper owns his personal private jet. It wouldn't be much of a surprise. A lot of rappers, some of whom are far less famous and have far shallower pockets, have their own personal wings. Champagne Pappy, Diddy, Nicki Minaj, and Snoop Dogg, just to name a few. Despite his industry peers choosing to own, Eminem takes a different approach: renting. The reality is that owning a depreciating asset isn't always the smartest financial decision. And what's the use of having a multi-million-dollar metal bird sitting in the backyard most of the time unused? Slim just charters a private plane whenever the need arises. For a low-cost private jet service, expect to shell out between $1,300 and $3,000 per flying hour. For the more lavish, jam-packed with all the amenities you can imagine, the bill can easily exceed 10 grand. While there may not be any personal jets in the garage, the list of out-of-this-world hypercars in his collection is enough to make any petrolhead's jaw drop. Over his tenure at the top of the charts, Slim Shady's been spotted cruising around in everything from a $400,000 Lamborghini Aventador to a nearly $200,000 Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Throw in the Ferrari 430 Scuderia, McLaren MP412C, and the Audi R8 Spider, each valued between $150,000 and $350,000, and you start to get a better understanding of the kind of extravagance that once sat in the Rochester Mansion's 4,000 square foot garage. Those exotic supercars are the perfect partners to the many workhorse vehicles he owns, like the Cadillac Escalade and the Hummer H2. Based on this photo, however, his pride and joy is the Dodge Super B. The company produced these old-school cars from 1968 until 1971, and then brought them back decades later in 2007. Bet your bottom dollar that the one in Eminem's collection is a 1970 classic. If you woke up tomorrow rich and famous, would you stay in your own hometown like Eminem did, or would you move somewhere else? If so, where? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, thanks.